to tell you a story about a Premier League footballer, a pro cyclist, and an NFL player. But first, I need to explain a few things. So it's entirely possible this has fallen out of your brain since you learned it in high school, but you're just a bunch of vibrating particles. So is everything else. This is mainstream science. Your organs, your cells, your bones, everything has a natural resonant frequency where it's at when it's in its most harmonious state. And as we go through our days, we get bombarded by all of that everything else. Emails, traffic, that thing someone said that gets stuck in your head, a disappointing loss that just jumble up our energy pathways and get us feeling out of whack. Things can actually, in train, come into the same rhythm with frequencies of other things they're coming in contact with. And that is, yes, a very simplified explanation of some very complex principles, but if I were to add a visual interpretation of that, it might look something like this. Now, I know you all know what this feels like. None of us are thinking or functioning at our best when we're like that. And nobody really has time for that, but in a world of professional sport, they'll tell you that's actually really true. Tight match schedules, expectations from sponsors to be getting wins, pressure to consistently perform. Oh, but there's good news. If everything is vibration, we can use some of those same principles to put it back, even up-level it. And while we may not yet fully understand all the hows and the whys, we do know sound has the capacity to shift us into more coherent vibrational patterns. Now, I'm specifically talking about a modality with sound bowls, often called a sound bath, and the idea is that you are bathed in sound. The feeling is something like being buoyed so that the vibrations have a chance to unwind those hypothetical tangles. And for me and the guys I work with, that looks like this, and like this, and like this. Now, that may seem like an out there thing to do in this context, but I've found that to not be their reaction at all. As long as I'm making it accessible, fit into schedules, making it happen, and relatable, not weird. All the cool kids are doing it. Some of them are doing it. It fits right into the peak performance toolkit. Now, this isn't new. It's not a biohack. It's actually been used by other cultures in its most basic form for a long time, and it's just starting to gain wider spread attention in Western medicine and wellness practices. And in just the last 5 years or so, I've been using it in a new way, integrating research and techniques from other disciplines and making some practical modifications along the way to show some pretty remarkable things at the highest levels of sport. But before I go and dial you in deeper on what that looks like, let me paint myself into this picture. So I'm not just a gal that likes yoga, banging on some bowls. I actually spent most of my life as a hardwired high achiever, top of class type, social impact lawyer, Forbes contributor, fitness instructor for CNN and Coca-Cola. Always chasing the next thing, a lot of that at the same time in a short period. And the only reason I'm telling you any of that is to say that it's probably not a stretch to say that I am a high capacity, high performance person myself, and that I understand the pressure to perform and achieve at least a little bit. Now, I also grew up an athlete. Soccer was my gateway drug. And I played throughout most of my youth, even on the boys' competitive teams when they'd let me. I already told you I taught fitness. As I got older, this transitioned into what I'll call high-intensity fitness communities. It's where I find a sense of belonging, where I feel most like myself, where I come alive. That daily push is a non-negotiable for me. Fitness became a way for me to break through barriers, mental as well as physical. And there's no greater camaraderie for me than with other people who understand that. That's just so my sports guys know I can hang. Athlete people are my people. And because we're all complex beings, I need to tell you one more thing, which is that I've also always been what I call a little bit of a high performance hippie. Constantly, simultaneously, always seeking balance, feeling more connected in my body, milking the most out of my own potential. Until that eventually took over more of my life. But I've done all kinds of things, acupuncture, yoga, oxygen chambers, just to get your wheels turning. And yes, sound baths. Now, I grew up on the East Coast and all of that was always fine. Sometimes I felt like it worked, sometimes I wasn't really sure. But it wasn't until I lived on the West Coast that I had a taste of sound baths on another level. Now, I have a very busy mind. I live in my head a lot. Maybe you can relate. But this was the first time my thoughts just stopped. I felt clear and open, and when you feel like that, life just flows much easier. And without sounding too dramatic, it completely changed the game for me. This was consistent and repeatable, and my body actually started to crave it. I would march around the corner at 5:15 every single Tuesday to this one class. And I didn't yet see the whole staircase, but I kept getting this pull that I knew I had to share it with more people like me that weren't really part of this world. So I became an expert at it, because what else would you expect from a hardwired high achiever? And then later on, one day during a sound bath, no less, that aha moment came. A way for me to combine all these aspects of myself, this really unique lens, into something of value in elite sport. Challenge accepted. Fast forward a little bit, here we are. So why are these big teams after this? So not to be reduced just to mindfulness or basic recovery, there are lots of benefits, but translated in this context, I'll give you the big 5 that I've found. Staying focused longer with less distraction, maintaining a sense of calm amidst challenges, breaking mental loops after negative events, even things like quicker injury recovery and injury prevention, and a big one, sleep. And here's the really cool thing about it. There is 0 effort required. You just lay down and the bulls do the work for you. Some self-reported data that we collected, and this was through the coaches, 20 guys that had been participating in sessions for at least a month, at least once a week. And they were asked to report how they felt within 36 hours of sessions, because you're gonna keep in training with what's out there. The world's gonna keep coming in. There's no permanent fix for anything. But what they said surprised even me. 50% said they had better communication with their teammates, 70% said they were more focused, and 100% said they had better sleep. What? So what am I doing to get that kind of feedback? Well, there's actually a lot that goes into what you're experiencing and how you're experiencing it. I'm sure you can appreciate there are levels of knowledge and experience involved, same as any other profession. This isn't just making relaxing sounds, in case I need to dispel any myths there. But I've played with a lot of variables. And I've showed you some of these pictures before, but I'll bring some back just to connect up the dots. It doesn't have to be long. Shorter sessions can work. Can be on-site or virtual, something we've perfected over the last few years with no loss in effectiveness. And I work in verbal cues, which really just means I say stuff to help dial down the mind chatter. And I meet different needs, so one-on-one to deal with more individual issues, group, which is a little bit more of a recovery play. My personal favorite, desperation. We've got a guy so far off his game, we've tried everything, we'll try anything. And the really fun stuff. Integrating new research from other disciplines to really soup this up for the realities of what pro athletes are dealing with. Some of this just helps explain why it does what it does, and some of these are new applications entirely. This is fascia. You may never have seen it or heard of it, but it's a network of connective tissue that encases everything inside your body. Doctors used to throw it away. They had no idea what it was for. But we now know that it serves a really crucial role in a lot of human functioning. It's important in movement, and it holds tension. And it's electrical in nature, which means it's responsive to vibration. It's also a communication network sending messages through the body, and it's loaded with receptors. So there are implications for the physical body and the physical recovery there. But here's where it starts to get a little less mainstream. Newer research is exploring if and how fascia holds emotion and trauma in the body, and what bigger trauma than a major sporting injury, something like a crash with broken bones. At that point, an athlete is not just rebuilding the physical stuff, they're rebuilding trust in their body. And what the findings are suggesting is that some of that emotional protective tension can be released as well. And there's plenty of anecdotal evidence already from leading fascial practitioners and their clients that are pointing that direction. If you're feeling stuck, interpret as you wish. Perhaps it's a conversation to be had with your fascia. Now we know the brain operates in 4 primary frequency ranges called brainwave states, not weird voodoo, it's just what they're called. And above that top level there, which is normal busy going doing, you start to get into the really good stuff. And we know that we can trigger the body into these levels using that entrainment idea again, syncing up with an outside source, like the repeating pattern of a sound. And that's when you get a little bit lower there, you start to get more access to your creative self, where those good ideas start coming in. So in the context of sport, that might be something like insight into a passing play or a new move you've been working on. And as you get even lower than that, we get into that really steep, really deep restorative sleep Flow state. This is that coveted in the zone place where actions are flowing seamlessly from one to the next, where decisions are happening in a fraction of a second that you don't even know that you're making. We know that flow has triggers, both individual and group, so like a team. We know that there are brainwave states associated with it, and we know that it can be trained. So removing distractions, creating rituals around it, all of that's really important. And we've been developing something for players to use in-ear during practice with sound components, along with other protocols, to see if they feel any different. And some of them are already starting to say they're more focused, which is pretty cool. This is the newest of the bunch. In 1991, doctors and scientists discovered a neural network in the heart. They called it the heart brain, a command center independent of the brain in your head. And while we've long known that the brain sends signals, messages down to the heart, what their research found was that the heart sends even more messages and signals back up to the brain, suggesting that maybe the heart has the capacity to tell the brain what to do rather than only the other way around. And the research showed that when you sync up and train these two organs, it creates more coherent wave patterns, which supports higher cognitive functioning. The more you relax into the heart, the more awake you are in the brain. And the research came along with techniques to do this. I use it in my sessions, and I teach the guys to do it as well so they can do it on their own. Now, I know I may have just hit a little bit of a skepticism button there for many of you just because you've never heard any of this before, but if you'll entertain for a moment that that's all actually true, that there's now real science behind a sense of what I would call playing from the heart. Are you guys ready for those stories I promised you? I've got some real-life player examples to show how this works in practice. Now, I say it's a secret weapon for all the benefits, certainly, but I also can't really talk about a lot of the teams I've worked with or show you personal photos. So, meet Chris, John, and Josh. Chris plays European football. It's where I first started experimenting with this. Little soccer-loving Nicole was driving that ship. And I was set up with a team in London at the time, on site a couple days a week so guys could come in and schedule sessions. And I had my regulars, but one day a new guy came in. And a really likable guy, every bit as personable and genuine as the guy you saw on TV. He was one of their free kickers, and he was pretty reliable in that department, but had started missing more than usual. And we got to talking, and he said, I feel like I've just started to lose that spark. And he was really skeptical. But he took an interest in the bowls, and he would ask me what this one was for and what that one was for. So he warmed up a little bit that way. And as we got to talking more, he shared that there was some conflict going on at home. There was a big renovation happening. And it starts to get really easy to see how personal stresses just get in the way. So we started out at the facility doing 2 days a week. And we stayed consistent for a month. Every week he was telling me he was feeling better and better. And eventually he started to get those kicks back. Now, I can't say that I was the magic bullet. There were other interventions going on, but I'm going to infer from the giant bear hug tackle I got the next time he saw me in the hallway that he thinks it helped a little bit. That guy in the middle up there, that's John. John's a pro cyclist. And I have a personal connection here too. You guys saw that picture of me on the bike earlier, and I'm still on that bike almost every day. And I have a personal love for the sport. And if you don't know much about cycling, I'll at least tell you that it is a team sport, and riders don't live or train together year-round, but they come together a few times a year for training camps. And it was at one of these camps that I was giving a presentation to talk a little bit about how I could help support the team. And the whole time, there was one kid in the back that kept making eye contact and then looking away. And I was like, okay, I got you. And sure enough, at the end, he comes up to me a little bit shy. And he wanted to know more about dealing with big emotions that I was talking about. And he was a younger rider, had already shown some promise in the team, but knew he needed to handle his frustration a little better to excel over time. And we got to talking, and he said, I know I'm a little bit of an emotional roller coaster sometimes. And he had a spring stage race coming up, and that's a stage race is 5 or 7 days in a row, usually going hard the whole time. We arranged so that I could be available in the evenings to do short sessions if he wanted. And he texted me almost every day when he was done and wanted to do a session, usually just 20 minutes. And he said it was helping him really shake off the day, and he was spiraling less when things didn't go as planned. Now, in those kinds of races, winning a stage will put you on the map. And he didn't win a stage, but he did get in the top 3, and that's still a really big deal. And he's liking it so much, he's trying to convince his coach to bring me on the longer Grand Tours this year. All right, that guy up there on your right, that's Josh. This is my newest endeavor. One of the coaches heard about some of the work I was doing, called me up, asked if I would participate in their recovery days. I said, sure, why not? Sounds fun. And through that, I met Josh. He approached me about doing some more individual work together. And if I can be honest, Josh was a little bit of an asshole. He had a little bit of a reputation. And I was skeptical this time, but I thought, you know what? Let's give it a shot. So we got to talking, and he told me that he has always had trouble with sleep, even more so on away games when there's noise in the hallway and unfamiliar spaces, just a lot of variables you can't control. So we set up to do virtual sessions at home in the evenings so he could get them during like a wind down before bedtime. And on away games too, same idea. And a lot of times when we're on these calls, he falls asleep and I just have to slowly back away at the end. So he'll tell you it's helped with his sleep, and I can attest. But even a few weeks into it, one of the coaches pulled me aside and said he's noticed that Josh is more alert in practice, less injuries, less mistakes. So while this is not just a recovery tool, it is also absolutely a killer recovery tool for sleep, for stress relief, for deep relaxation. And here's the cute little twist. This doesn't have to just apply to professional sports. Whether you're a recreational athlete, an executive, a musician, an artist, anyone, and the words peak performance just perk your ears up, there's no reason you can't get in on this too. The same principles can be applied to up your game, whatever that game might be. Thank you.